Well, what's up, everybody? How's it going? This is Zach with KT Outdoors, and in today's episode, I'm going to show you how we just planted those two beds of no-dig potatoes using this. That's right, a bulb planter. That's coming up next. Okay, so this is one of our potato beds this year. It started out as a dug bed, but since we got it going, we have done absolutely no digging whatsoever to this bed. Instead, we just amend the surface layers every year. And one of our favorite things to use is actually animal feed. We like to take alfalfa pellets, maybe beet pellets, and sprinkle them across the surface of the soil. We'll kind of get a good layer of that going. Then we'll go ahead and water that in, which helps break up those pellets from their compressed form into a basically alfalfa meal at that point, which is a common in fertilizer. Once they're loosened up a little bit, we rake them into the soil, get some good contact with all the microbiology that we've got going on in the soil, since we don't dig it and we don't kill anything. And then once that's all done, we give it a nice good layer of compost over the top, which ends up giving us beds that look like this one here. We like to use as many different sources of compost as we can, so we use a variety of compost from local municipal compost that we get from one of the local dumps in the area that processes guard waste, as well as much compost as we can make ourselves from the various vegetative matter we have around the homestead. So compost is the great top dressing that finishes these beds off and just makes them look really nice and neat. So now we're at the bulb planting part of this deal with the drill there, and the biggest reason that we're going this route is because it's disturbing way less of the soil, which means it's reducing the impact to the soil food web, as opposed to something like digging a nice long trench where these holes are, right? Like I'd have to dig the trench that deep, the entire length of this, and instead right now we have like 4 little holes and that's it. That's less impact to the soil biology, which is what we're going for here with this no-dig approach. Okay, once your holes are dug and in the ground, the process couldn't be simpler. I'm just going to simply use a little hand trowel here or my hands to reach down into each hole, clear out some of the loose soil that might be at the bottom. Then I'll grab the potatoes, make sure that the growing portions of the potato are facing up, and I'll drop them down into each of the hole. Then we'll just very lightly slide some dirt back over top of everything, kind of mound it up a little bit over the top of each potato, which creates a little bit of a depression, I guess, around the root on the surface of the soil to help pool some water and let it soak down deep into the soil. One last thing that I want to note is that I plant whole potatoes. You can, of course, cut them into smaller sections and allow them to kind of dry out before you plant them, but I've just always had great experience with whole potatoes, so that's what I do. And I have plenty of leftovers from last year, so there was no reason to try to expand my plantability by cutting the potatoes smaller. Overall, I was really pleased with this process. It took virtually no time at all to get these in. I don't think I spent more than 30 or 40 minutes to get 45 potatoes into the ground in the various beds that we planted this day. Everything was covered up, we watered it in well, and then it was ready to rock and roll. And so now we just wait for beautiful potatoes to be harvested later this year. One thing that I did notice while using this method was the amount of precision I was able to have. Here we're planting some purple potatoes, and I purposefully planted them around the exterior of the bed and left the interior space completely opened so that we could plant in some pole beans or something else later on to have a companion plant growing with these potatoes. So I'm kind of excited to see how this is going to end up looking. But this would have been much more difficult to do if I were digging trenches all around this. It would have been harder to keep the soil out of the paths potentially, and just generally been a bit more messy. It was also really, really easy to keep the appropriate spacing because all of the holes were equally spaced apart, which just meant everything was right on the money where it needed to be. Overall, I highly recommend this method. It was one of the easiest potato plantings I think I have ever done. So I encourage you to get out there, get some potatoes planted, get them in the ground. It's a great crop. It produces a lot of food. They are super, super easy to grow. Once you have some potato slips with some sprouts on them, like those ones there in the picture, you just put them in the ground and wait for Mother Nature to make things happen. There will, of course, be some disturbance when we dig these beds. That's going to have to loosen up some of the soil, but it's a short-term disturbance that I'm okay with. We'll amend the soil when we dig them out, put in some more compost to help that soil microbiology rebound from that impact of digging the potatoes, and then they'll be off to the races. So anyway, that's all for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you got some value out of this, consider giving it a thumbs up if you haven't already. Maybe subscribe to the channel. We'll be sharing more great content like this, helping you understand that you can grow your own food and become more sustainable through some simple, easy methods that anyone can use. So let's do it. Let's get out there and get growing, because life's better when it's lived outdoors. We'll see you next time.